Many years ago, when I was just a small child, my mother had passed away from the flu. It was just my father and I, and unfortunately we were very, very poor. Devastated by my mother's passing, my father struggled to take care of us. He struggled to even feed us at times, so you could imagine my surprise when I heard the news that we were going to Mossport City. I had never even seen the ocean. He sat me down at a small table just outside a tavern. I began to ask him what we were doing in this big city. He said we were simply here to make some quick silver before returning home. I was so excited by the idea of having money once again. We might finally be able to buy enough ingredients for some soup or even stew. My father said we'd be meeting a man by the dock, so we made our way there. The man introduced himself as a captain to my father, but he didn't look like any Royal Navy captain that I had ever read about. My father and the captain began discussing prices for the product, but I was unsure as to what they were talking about. Before I knew it though, the captain had given my father 45 pieces of silver. This was all my life was worth to my father. My father sold me to a pirate to become part of his crew, as if I were some pet or piece of property. But alas, as a small child, there was nothing I could do. I barely understood what was even happening. I was just sad to see my father walk away without even making another glance at me. But with time, I would indeed become a pirate. Not just any pirate though. A damn good pirate. Captain Stiper took me in as one of his own. He taught me everything that I knew about being a pirate, and I had swore to myself with all that I had learned and who I had become that I would now make my father pay. We sailed the seas looking for those who we could plunder, and believe you me, we found many Royal Navy ships during this time. Funny enough, those with riches were never too keen on giving it up without a fight. That was no problem though, as we didn't mind getting our hands dirty for it, and we killed many who we believed were deserving of it. But we also killed many who were not. And I am not always proud of the things that I have done. But our plundering continued day after day, week after week, all throughout the years. I remember one year during the early spring, the snow had just thawed from the ground. We approached a small tavern in the outskirts of a lesser-known village. We were all extremely thirsty. We hadn't had a good beer in weeks. As we sat down at a table, we overheard the barkeep discussing with an older-looking gentleman. The man said he had no home and he had nowhere to go. Well, the barkeep told him that he couldn't stay there, to which he replied that it didn't matter, he didn't have any silver anyhow, he'd also been looking for work in the area. The barkeep mentioned a very small logging company that had just started. Looked like there was only one gentleman working there if he were interested. He thanked the barkeep for his information and then proceeded to leave the tavern. I explained to my crew that the description the barkeep gave sounded an awful lot like my father, and knowing him, no doubt he's got plenty of silver tucked away. We got up from our table and Captain Stiper decided he would question the barkeep. I still remember his face. He told us everything he knew. He really did. He told us everything. But the captain insisted that if we left the barkeep behind, that he might alert my father to what we had planned. After several failed attempts to defeat my father and his men, I decided I would no longer pursue my revenge, and that a life of plunder was not one for me. For years I would be on my own, but I supposed that is the price I would pay for my years of evil doings. One early morning I was walking to a nearby village. I came upon a young girl who was standing alone in the road. Alone. Just as I was when I was a child, I thought. I asked her where her parents were, and she said that her mother had died long ago, but her father had recently been killed in a raid. She said he was a chieftain of their village, but that village was no more. The young girl introduced herself. Her name was Sherd.